In a palace filled with the most cruel and vile beings, very few took the time to be honest and caring. One of these beings is Porcellus, the genius chef who Jabba all but enslaved. This transmission will look at the legend of this talented chef, how his terrible situation went from bad to worse, then we'll dive into Canon to see if we can find something of a happy ending for him. Jabba the Hutt kept many things in chains, literal or not, in his stolen palace on Tatooine. Droids, dancers, bounty hunters, musicians, and debtors. Porcellus stood alone. He was a renowned chef whose reputation grew large enough to get Jabba's attention. After Porcellus was brought to Tatooine to serve Jabba, his passion for cooking became his most important survival mechanism. One bad meal could see him locked in a cell and forgotten about, or fed to the Rancor that Jabba kept under his throne room. Porcellus spent his career before going to Jabba's palace cooking for some of the social elite of the galaxy and even won multiple awards for his skills. He spent a good deal of time in the Bryax sector working for Governor Yundus Malor. This prestigious post led him very unexpectedly to a deal with the devil. Jabba wasn't the only torment that Porcellus had to deal with while working in the kitchens below the palace. The Gamorrean guards stationed in the palace for security had a bad habit of wandering into the kitchen whenever they saw fit, and with no thought of Porcellus's work, hygiene, or well-being. They'd greedily pick through his stores and leave a mess on their way out. Even the assistant he had, Phlegmon, could not be trusted. Porcellus did what he had to get by. He built some defenses for the better ingredients in the kitchen. Better being a relative term here. He was no longer cooking mass-appeal dishes for the galaxy's high society with finer tastes. He had to make dishes that a Hutt would like, meaning most other beings found them repugnant. He kept his more traditional cooking skills up between feeding the mighty Hutt. He'd make beignets and chocolate-dipped lady babies to use as currency to bribe guards and others who kept the palace running from behind the scenes. Porcellus would even bribe the guards into letting some food reach the unfortunate prisoners, specifically Chewbacca and Han Solo, once the Corellian was freed from his nightmarish imprisonment in Carbonite. He had no idea who they were or the significance of the rebellion that they played. He was just a man doing what he thought was right. In 4 ABY, leading up to the events of Return of the Jedi, bodies started showing up in the bowels of the palace. Porcellus finds the body of Akbuz first. This is the Weequay captain of Jabba's pleasure sail barge. Luckily, the only witness to the chef standing over the body was a Gamorrean so dumb that he made the rest of the dim-witted Gamorreans look like scholars. Akbuz's body was stashed in the trash. After Jabba had his enslaved dancing girl Ula fed to the Rancor for refusing his forced advances, one of the Gamorrean guards choked on some food that came out of the palace's kitchens. Jabba grew suspicious at this given the Gamorrean's normal constitution. He assumed Porcellus was trying to poison him and the Gamorrean got in the way. Porcellus was then locked in the palace dungeons to wait to be fed to the Rancor so Jabba and his minions could enjoy the show. Luckily for Porcellus, fate intervened in the form of Luke Skywalker. The Jedi marched straight into the middle of the gangster's lair and politely demanded the release of his friends. If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. We all know the events of Return of the Jedi, so I'll just touch on the crucial part that relates back to Porcellus's story. Luke kills the mighty Rancor in self-defense. A victory for the Jedi, but a terrible blow to Malakili, the beast tamer who formed a bond with the creature and Porcellus's best friend. I actually have a full transmission all about Malakili that I'll link below. The rest of the events of Return of the Jedi play out as we all know them so well, and the palace falls into chaos after the death of the Hutt in the dunes above the Great Pit of Carkoon. The creatures left behind in the palace scramble to steal what they can and get clear of the place before the power vacuum can be addressed. Inanzadi, a vampire-like species, goes on a rampage killing many. While all the chaos is going on, Porcellus is stuck in his cell, hopeless, assuming that he'd just be forgotten and waste away. It's not without irony that the chef who fed so many so well would die of starvation. Before despair could fully take over, the lock on his cell clicks open. Malakili, the beast tamer, who is just as much a prisoner in this place as Porcellus, sprung his friend from a terrible fate. They didn't want to linger long in the aftermath of Jabba's death, but they did make sure to get a healthy sum of credits and valuables on the way out. They retreated to Mos Eisley, a busy spaceport on the same planet, and used their stolen wealth to open a modest restaurant called the Crystal Moon. The small business had a simple kitchen, a simple menu, and no need for booby-trapped ingredients. Squill and dune lizards became specialties, and Porcellus was back to cooking how he wanted to for paying customers. He was paid for his skills and got to spend his days with a friend who needed this fresh start as much as he did. The bulk of Porcellus' story is found in legends, in tales from Jabba's palace specifically. His story is fleshed out a bit in related legends like the Star Wars Insider article Who's Who in Jabba's Palace. There's even more context given through others' stories in the anthology book, like that of Malakili. The most interesting thing about his story is that the happy ending he finally receives is found in canon. This does not necessarily say that the legend is now canon, but the events would have to line up for the ending to make any kind of sense, and there are no contradictions, so I'd say it's a pretty safe bet. Check out this transmission next to hear all about Malakili, Porcellus' friend and the man who tamed the mighty Rancor.